Ohio State and Michigan don't need the Big Ten. This weekend, we have the 121st meeting of Ohio State and Michigan, and this is by far the biggest game in all of college football that is played every single season. Of course, the playoff games, national championship games, those are bigger, but just regular season games. Ohio State and Michigan is the creme de la creme of modern college football. It probably has been for quite a few seasons. And at this point, it is more than just a Big Ten game, and really more than just even a regular season game. Because as we saw last year, the results of the regular season game don't matter towards the rest of the regular season. Ohio State lost against essentially a barely bowl eligible Michigan team and still found a way to win the national championship game. So it's something different than any other college football game that we have currently. And it was just a few weeks ago that we were talking about Michigan and USC potentially leaving the Big Ten over the private equity deal that the Big Ten was pushing through, kind of spearheaded by Ohio State and in some regards Oregon, looking for additional revenue for the conference. And it's made me realize that this game, Ohio State and Michigan, is the reason why Michigan could very easily leave the Big Ten and why Ohio State maybe should leave the Big Ten and not continue to kind of use it as its sandbox to do whatever they want to do. Because just for context, Ohio State and Michigan are not only top 3 in viewership over the past 4 seasons for all of their games. There have actually only been 11 games that have gone over 10 million viewers in the past 4 seasons. 4 of those games are Ohio State versus Michigan, 1 for each season. There have only been 3 games that have gone over 15 million viewers, and all 3 of those games are Ohio State versus Michigan. So this game and these teams are astronomical as far as the interest in them specifically across all of their games in college football, and especially in relation to the rest of college football. So why would Ohio State and Michigan want to continue to be a part of an 18-team Big Ten where all decisions have to go through all of these decision makers that might not be in the best interest of those 2 schools? And that's not even to mention that most of those 18 teams are dragging down their numbers astronomically compared to what they could get on the open market just as a solo or even as a duo of some kind going to find their own TV deal. And I think that this isn't exclusive to Ohio State and Michigan, but maybe they're just the best example. But most of these top-level college football programs have probably outgrown the conference system as we currently have it. And maybe that's what we're seeing over these past couple years of conference realignment. The 2011-2012 stuff was a little bit different, but these moves that were made by USC and UCLA and Texas and Oklahoma, and then kind of the moves that came after that, seemed to reek of a change in TV viewing habits, a change in how college football programs saw themselves, and what the goals of college football programs are in modern day college football. And I don't think that those goals are to play Purdue on a Saturday in November. I don't think that Texas's goal was to play Mississippi State in Starkville in October and not get any of their fans there. I don't think that those are the goals of these top-level programs, is to play these kind of games in podunk towns in the middle of nowhere with a SEC network or Big Ten network viewership. Their goal is to play the biggest games almost every single weekend, or at least be in line to play the biggest games at the end of the season. And the way the conferences are currently constructed doesn't allow for all of the best teams that bring in the most money to really have that dream come true. Well, how does that relate to Ohio State and Michigan specifically? Well, for one, the private equity deal that we were talking about a few weeks ago had a weird condition that would extend the grant of rights for the conference through 2046. Now, I think that Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, USC, Washington, Wisconsin, Penn State, I guess, but maybe Wisconsin doesn't belong in there, but Nebraska are probably fine with all playing each other through 2046. But do they want to continue to be with Northwestern, Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue? Do they want to be with those teams through the 2046 season? Do they want to be locked into not a TV rights deal, but just who they're going to be going after those TV rights deals for the next 20 years with all the changes that we're absolutely bound to see with TV viewing habits and streaming and all of the technology that's going to change over the next 20 years? I don't think that they do, but I also don't know what powers the top level teams in the Big Ten have for separating themselves from those teams without leaving the conference. How do they get away from probably the bottom 7 or 8, maybe 6 teams in the conference and get down to the 10 or 12 that is really going to give you impactful games every week and can get those top level media contracts, even though they're already getting paid so much? There's no way that the Big Ten is not going to try to get even more and even more power in their next deal that comes up in the beginning of the next decade. But I think that we're going to see more and more teams try to go independent. I know that Ohio State had already flirted with it during the COVID era. Of course, that was slightly different, but still, they've already kind of looked into the idea of going independent, and I'm sure that it's probably starting to look more lucrative in the current day media landscape. Obviously, Michigan and USC have at least looked into that possibility, and probably any of the teams that were a part of the Pac-12, especially Oregon and Washington being a part of the falling apart Pac-12, probably have looked into independent status. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily the best thing, but if you just look at both the media rights landscape as well as the college football playoff landscape currently, doesn't it make sense to be independent and be nimble if you can pull it off? Because Ohio State is more valuable than Notre Dame, and probably more valuable than anybody across the country, not just as a football team, but as an entire athletic department. Maybe Texas is up there, maybe Michigan is up there, Notre Dame is up there because they aren't independent currently, but Ohio State could demand even more money than Notre Dame can as an independent if they were to go out on their own away from the Big Ten. And I think that it probably makes more sense for them than Michigan, but both teams would be much more nimble in an independent environment. I think that maybe this season would show kind of what Ohio State would plan to do, and this is maybe along the same lines of what Notre Dame has been doing in the 12-team era, which is have this big game early on in the season like they did against Texas, and then really not play anybody of substance through the entire season. Now, that's Big Ten scheduling, and that's part of why there's so many teams in the Big Ten, so they can get away with that in the early 12 team. But Ohio State would be able to do that on their own as well. They would be able to schedule kind of whoever they wanted, easy games, and then play a bookend game with Michigan at the end of the season. So you have these 2 big games you have to get up for, and then kind of nothing in the middle. This has been Notre Dame's playbook for a while. This was Boise State's playbook back in the day when they found a way to get into the BCS, or at least BCS conversation every single season, because they had easy teams that they were going to beat, but they just needed that one game in the season that would put them up on the national radar. People would see, oh, Boise State's good, and then they'd have the BCS game at the end of the season that they could then go win that and remind everybody that one of the best football programs in the country is over in Idaho playing nobody. And that's that's kind of what the playbook is for the current 12-team playoff. Now, the playoff is changing next season. We don't really know what that's going to look like, or it could change, I guess. But that seems like it's probably going to be the playbook for whatever playoff setup, especially if we're bigger than 12 teams, because they just cannot watch that many games. So the number one thing in most cases is going to be the record, alongside whatever logo that record is next to. And even if both Ohio State and Michigan leave, I think that the Big Ten would still survive as one of the best conferences in the country. I know that they're going to not get the same deals, but look at this lineup without Ohio State and Michigan. There's still a lot of top-level teams in the 16-team conference. Penn State, Oregon, USC, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana. These are all teams that not only have success in most cases, but also are very well-viewed teams that go and would demand one of the top media deals in the country, even without the two big fish that lead the conference currently. So while I'm not saying that they should, I think that many of these top-level teams are probably considering independent status, seeing the success that Notre Dame has had, and seeing the changes in the media rights landscape over the past couple seasons, and especially what's going to be coming up here when the new TV deals come around. And they're probably not even going to be TV deals by the next time we get to it. It's going to be almost exclusively streamers. But teams and schools like Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, To a lesser degree, Georgia, Alabama, they have a strong part of their identity tied to the SEC, but especially those first three, maybe USC, they're all going to be looking to see if they could survive, and not just survive, but exceed expectations as an independent with the changes to the college football playoff and with the changes to how people are viewing college football on TV and anywhere else that they get their college football. But thanks for watching that video. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hype the video. It helps small content creators. I'm a small content creator and I could use all the help I could get. If you made it this far, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Do you think that Ohio State and Michigan could or should leave the Big Ten and go as independents or create a new conference? Do you think that the Big Ten would be able to survive without them? And do you think they would make any additional moves or just stick with the teams that they had after they left the conference? If you want to watch more videos, I do have those for you. Over here, I've got a video I did earlier this week, which is about kind of the rise and fall of Conference USA. So check that one out if you like conference history. Up here, I did the video that I released yesterday on Thanksgiving, which is about the Black Friday chaos that could come about from the games this Friday in the SEC, so check that one out if you're interested. I do have my subscribe link on this side if you haven't already subscribed, and if you love Bucky Barracks and just can't get enough, I've got more Bucky Barracks right on top there. Other than that, we'll check you next time. See ya!